Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Nintendo Everything Refresh, the weekly show where we keep you all up to date on everything new and exciting in the world of Nintendo. I'm your host Nick Serpa, joined today by Tom Chaplin.
Hey everyone!
We're here and we have survived the onslaught of gaming news. Summer Games Fest and otherwise. It has been a crazy week of announcements. Like, Tom, I don't know, how many showcases did you watch this week? Because there were a lot.
Well, we're recording this, not to date this episode, I think the day of the Microsoft showcase.
Yes, sir.
I did watch that one all the way through, and I watched Summer Games Fest in and out. I don't trust Jeff Keighley with his rundown being 100% for me. So, other than that, though, I haven't watched some of the Devolver. I know those are usually really good. I just haven't got around to them.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Wholesome Direct, I need to get back and watch those too.
Yeah, there was all those, and then there was also the PC Gaming Show, which had Switch announcements. There was the Gorilla Exchange, which had a lot of Switch announcements. I mean, it was just like, it was an onslaught. And so this is our big kind of roundup of the big stuff that happened this week. I mean, we will not get anywhere close to anything because there were literally, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say like there were probably hundreds of games shown off this week between all these showcases. Like, and not all of them were new, I'm sure, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been the Wholesome showcase where they were like, we have 80 games to show you today, and I'm like, holy crap, like, where are all these coming from?
It's thriving. You know what? It's good to see, though. It's thriving. The indie scene is still alive and well. I think a lot of indie companies started during COVID and have been able to grow that kind of part of the industry.
Yeah, it's really good to see. And yeah, I was very fortunate to actually have the opportunity to cover Summer Games Fest from Los Angeles, which was really cool.
Yeah, you were at the show, right? You were at the show?
Yeah, so there was the live show, which they had at the YouTube Theater, and then they also had 2 days of, it's a media-only event called Summer Games Fest Play Days, where a lot of the games that were featured in the show or just kind of partners, friends of Mr. Keighley, had demos and interviews available for media. So I got to do both those things, and I had a great time and got to meet some incredible developers. There's going to be a lot of preview content over on Nintendo Everything and on the YouTube channel over the next week or so, probably the next week or two. I mean, some of the big stuff is already out. I put out a preview of Sonic Superstars, which we're definitely going to talk about that. But I also got to play a lot of really cool indies. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff this year. But let's get into it. Let's talk about the big Switch announcements from Summer Games Fest. Now, this first one I did not get a chance to play. I don't think anyone has played it yet, as far as I'm aware. We're going to see more at the Ubisoft Forward showcase this week. But we got a new Prince of Persia game announced, which was a huge surprise to me and to everyone who was watching the stream live. Like when I was sitting in the theater and this game came up, everyone was like, what is this? And I thought it was a new Assassin's Creed Chronicles game. That was my first thought. Mm-hmm. And then when that Prince of Persia like there was a point where we were all just like, oh my god, this is Prince of Persia. And then the logo came up and people lost their minds.
Yeah, except for the music, right? Except for the music choice.
Except for the music. Although, honestly, when I was watching it, I was just so focused on the gameplay that I didn't notice the music was obnoxious until I heard people complaining about it after. And then I went back and rewatched it. I was like, oh yeah, that wasn't the best choice. But
one thing I'd like to mention is, dude, as there were Switch announcements, none of them were from Nintendo. I mean, another year has gone by through this E3-esque week where Nintendo's had no presence. And so, you know, these are announcements from like third-party shows and third-party companies. It's just a sad feeling, an empty feeling that there's not also that Nintendo showcase or something to go along with all the other announcements. But I assume maybe we won't get something soon, or maybe we will. But yeah, this game, I mean, I'm excited for it. I like a well-designed 2D, 2.5D action platformer as much as the next guy. So obviously it's nothing like, you know, the Prince of Persia games of old. But Ubisoft has been known to make incredible 2D platformers. And so if this is, I don't know if it's the same team or not, as like Rayman Legends, but if it is, then I'm actually incredibly excited for it. Then it'd be a high on the list. Now I don't know that. I don't know. Do you know that? Who inside Ubisoft is making this?
It's Ubisoft Montpellier.
Oh, so it is so that's the Rayman Legends studio then.
Is it? I wasn't sure. I didn't want to jump the gun, but that would be wild. If let me Google this live on the podcast.
Yeah. Cut this out, Louise.
frantic keyboard noises in the back. Let's see.
Yeah, that's
they made Zombie U, so that's exciting.
Yeah, or Ubisoft Montpellier did develop Rayman Legends. So this is this is of that pedigree of this. You gotta assume there's some team overlap. So now I'm even more excited about the game now that I've confirmed that.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, look, I have not actually played a Prince of Persia game. I think a lot of them were just kind of like, I don't want to say before my time, because I was playing video games around that point, but like, you know, I was a basic kid. I played the basics, you know, and I was really looking forward to the Sands of Time remake that they're working on that is just stuck in development hell. So I'm glad that there's something coming out from this IP that looks solid and like complete. Like this is coming out in January too, not that far away.
No, and it again, this looks phenomenal. Knowing the pedigree of the development team, like it just looks. And a lot of Ubisoft games have like been hurt by scale, and no, this looks like it's like just knows what it is and is gonna do it the best it can. And
yeah,
I know it's getting like disliked a lot online, or because they've used up and fumbling the bag for every franchise they own recently, and just a lot of bad press. But if I hope this game can kind of push through and find an audience, because it looks really exciting.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if people are disliking it because they just don't like how Ubisoft is handling the IP, which I guess I could understand that. Like, if you've been playing this franchise for a long time, like this is probably not like the first thing that you would want from a Prince of Persia game. But like, I mean, like looking at the gameplay, like it looks so fluid. The art looks incredible. I mean, it looks incredibly polished. Like it looks like they know what they're doing, and I think if this does well, it could be a gateway to greater things for the franchise again.
By the way, you should go back and play Sands of Time. Don't wait for the remake. That's a great game. A very different game, obviously, but
yeah.
There's a lot of just this franchise was so good. It's like Splinter Cell, like some of the greatest games from that generation, Gen 6, and it's just been like gone. And for no reason really. So
yeah, I don't know what happened. But yeah, so that was a huge surprise announcement. And the only other really big announcement we got during the Summer Games Fest live stream was Sonic Superstars, which
for
is
Switch,
like
right?
also
Switch.
For Switch, yes. Yeah. Not a lot of Switch focused stuff, but Sonic Superstars was the other really big one. This is, I mean, the last 2D Sonic game we got was Sonic Mania, which was great, but it was developed by indie developers, and this one is actually like a Sega developed thing. Originally, we all thought it was being developed by Sonic Team, which is not the case, we've learned. It's being developed by, oh gosh, I always butcher the pronunciation of the studio's name, but
Arzest?
Yes, right? Arzest, thank you. So yeah, but you know, Sega's working really closely with them, and I actually got to play this one at Summer Games Fest, and I loved it, man. The 2 stages I played, I really enjoyed.
I gotta say, like everything I've heard from previews, including yours, that's up on the channel, or the site. Wow, this game looks great. Fellow Nintendo Everything member Sam, who makes a bunch of videos for the channel too. Like he's a big Sonic guy. He was messaging me live messaging me about how exciting this game looks, because it's not just that it's a new Sonic game, but it's like new in so many good ways, right? Like there's system, the momentum system, the speed, the getting rid of Green Hill Zone, right? Finally making new levels and new kind of abilities and new stages and all these type of like actual, like, I don't know, it feels kind of like with New Super Mario Bros. Like had a whole different, it's like they're actually making a new Sonic game. This is like Sonic 5, like it feels something special and different than just a remix or something, even though Mania is great. It's always kind of a remix or, bringing back the old. Finally something new's happening.
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to tell like exactly how new it's gonna feel. I mean, it does feel just like a really good Sonic game. Like, and yeah. I don't think there's anything that I've seen so far that I'm like, wow, like this is the killer breakout new feature. Like they do have these emerald powers, which I guess are like abilities that you can kind of unlock as you go through, and they all kind of do different things. But the ones I saw, I was like, yeah, like they're fine, but like that's not really like the reason to play. Like the reason to play is just like this is an original 2D Sonic with, like you said, like new environments and co-op play, and it's as far as I can tell, they're not gonna put in a super complicated like voice acted story. Like it's really just like we're gonna throw you right into it. You can do exactly what you love to do in a Sonic game, yeah.
Yeah, and you got to play it, right? And so it game feel as well. Like it felt good. It felt like classic Sonic. But was there any like new refresh? Like, whoa, that's a different mechanic, or was it just like good old classic? Don't fix what's not broken.
I'd say for the most part, the latter. Like I think the thing that I just enjoyed the most, and some people would argue that like 2D Sonic has always kind of had this, but it really just, I was really enjoyed the fact that I felt like I had to build up speed, and that like you aren't just immediately sprinting across the screen. Like yeah, there are like boost pads and things like that that can get you going, but even still, like I felt like overall like the pace, like there's a little bit more platforming than I was actually expecting. It felt like the amount of like branching paths in different ways through the level, like felt like they really had put a lot of focus on that, and like these stages feel like they're like I did replay them, and I was enjoying replaying them because I felt like there were different ways to go through them on repeat playthroughs, especially considering that you can play as Sonic, Amy, Tails, or Knuckles. So I think there's going to be a lot of replayability, which is exciting, and yeah, I like that it feels like it's retaining all the best parts of the Sonic games that hardcore Sonic fans really like, and it's leaving out a lot of the super, I think, I don't always want to call everything a gimmick, but it's leaving out a lot of the things that might distract from that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that concerns me about it's like Prince of Persia, we were talking about pedigree, right? The RZest pedigree makes me a little bit nervous because I don't think I've ever liked a game they've made. Like they've made like Yoshi's New Island and Hey Pikmin and Balan Wonderworld. They developed along with Square Enix. Like
yeah,
this is not like, not only do I not like those games, but I like the music for those games are like impressively bad, and like Sonic's all about music, and I don't know if you noticed, but I wasn't too impressed by the trailer, at least. The early music we saw for this game too is like, I'm a little nervous about that, I guess, if I'm going to say anything. We've never seen them make a Sonic game, right? But like, at least their work with Nintendo has me a little anxious, because the game's a full price. Like it's a $60 game.
It is.
So
yeah,
we're not talking about
we don't
nothing.
really know how much content is going to be in it. Like we don't know how many zones there's going to be at this point. So there are still a lot of questions in that area, but but yeah, I mean, all things considered, I'm feeling pretty good about it. The other thing is that I wasn't able to play the Switch version specifically. I think I was playing PS5 version, which looked really good. It was still an early build, so
the game looks great. I love the art style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the art style is awesome. Yeah, I think they nailed it. Like, you know, it's not. I'm sure there are fans out there who would have preferred like 2D pixel art, but I think like the way they did the character models and did the environments, like I think it looks really really nice. But yeah, so this one is coming out sometime in the fall. I don't think we have an exact release date yet, but yeah, I think this could be good. If it lands the way that the demo felt, I think it could be really solid.
Yeah, what else did you play though? So it was Prince of Persia. You didn't play Prince of Persia. You played Sonic Superstars. What else?
Oh yeah, yeah, there was a lot. Some of them I'll probably only talk about briefly, but I'd say one of the other really big games, just I guess in terms of like brand power at the very least, was Disney Illusion Island. This one is notable in a couple ways. First of all, it's crazy that Disney, for those who like don't remember, there was a long stretch of time where Disney was not really making console games. They kind of were following the trend of going into the mobile market, and they closed down Disney Interactive, and they weren't even really licensing out their IP very much for a while. And just like lately, over the past few years, I mean, we've kind of seen that change. We got Disney Dreamlight Valley, we had Disney Speedstorm, which is like the kind of Mario Kart style racer. And now we're getting Disney Illusion Island, which is a like totally original 2D, it's a Metroidvania actually, which I don't think a lot of people realize. So there's a couple interesting things about this game. First of all, it has no combat. Everything that you unlock as you progress through the game, all the abilities, the boss battles, they're all related to traversal and puzzle solving. The whole game is co-op as well, so you can play through the whole game with up to 4 people on one screen. And the animation is just, it's really faithful to the characters. They're introducing like new characters into this game. Like Disney has given them a lot of creative leeway to kind of write their own story and build their own world. So there's a lot of elements to this game that I think could come together really well and be something pretty special. Especially if you're a big fan of, you know, Mickey Mouse and those characters and seeing them all interact.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen from the game, it's like gorgeous, kind of hand-drawn, but I remember Disney closing down, right? Like Disney Infinity felt like the death knell of Disney like leaving. It was like all those old toys on the shelf.
Yeah.
But they had like a couple really solid 2D action platforms on the 3DS from what I remember. And you know, obviously the Epic Mickey even further back. But yeah, we haven't seen a game. This reminds me in style at least, though you're saying it's more Metroidvania, of those like those 3DS games, or even like you go way back to like Capcom, right, or the NES and Super Nintendo when they were making the Disney license. Like it's nice to see Disney kind of put these characters back into like the real video games, you know, as much as I have critiqued the Speedstorm, which I hold wholeheartedly. This game though feels like there's a lot of love and kind of actual kind of attention paid to it being just a solid experience front to back for like whole family, just 4 players kind of. And that's what that lack of combat makes me think of. Like, you can't have the violence with the Mickey character and the mini characters and Disney characters.
Right.
So for like the young audience that this game clearly wanting to kind of attract, playing with their parents is a lot of finding a different solution.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Yeah, I actually got to talk to the creative director of the game, Grant Allen, and he definitely seemed to have, you know, a lot of just personal nostalgia for. He mentioned Disney's Castle of Illusion, like those old school, like you were talking about, those old school Disney games. Yeah, yeah, and this studio, they also worked on the recent Battletoads remake.
Okay.
I don't know if you call it a remake or a sequel. So that's kind of, you know, they do have a knack for kind of these like hand hand-keyed art styles and just this really detailed animation. And I had a great time playing it. I got to play it in co-op with some folks at one of their preview events, and everyone was having a blast. It was really fun to kind of figure out where to go, and it is a Metroidvania, but it's big, and you do have this map, and you'll come across a door, and you'll be like, all right, well, this door needs a certain type of key. I got to go explore it. You'll stumble upon maybe like a series of rooms that are these little kind of self-contained puzzles to get you what you need. And you unlock more abilities as you go through. I was told, I didn't get to see them all, but they were talking about how eventually you can get like a ground pound and things to open up new paths and things like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for sure.
The only thing, and I'm curious how you felt about it, when I watched trailers of this game, was I felt like the screen was too zoomed out and the characters were so small, especially in co-op. Like, did that affect you at all, or is that a problem at all, or is that just once you play it, you're fine? It's not a big deal.
I did notice it. I did notice it was really zoomed out, and I asked about it, and they said that they chose to do this because this is a multiplayer game. The camera is dynamic, so it does kind of zoom in or out depending on what you're doing, but it also kind of does the whole new Super Mario Brothers thing when you're playing in multiplayer, where if a character gets too far off screen or whatever, they'll...
The bubble?
Yeah, kind of like a bubble, except in this game they seal up into a little envelope, and they shoot to the nearest mailbox if you have to go to the mailbox and let them out. It's kind of funny, actually, but...
That's like Donkey Kong Country, nearest barrel.
yeah. So I think they're trying to take some of the lessons from some of these other multiplayer games. I was playing on a big screen, so it didn't really bother me. But I do wonder if it would be hard on
though, yeah, like the Switch
handheld mode. Yeah, we'll see. I had a similar. Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But Oxenfree II was another game I played, and that's another game where the camera is also very wide at times. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates to a handheld too.
Did the first one ever come to Switch?
That's a good question. I think it did at some point. I don't, because it launched in 2016. So I don't think it was there when the Switch launched.
Yeah,
but
but it did. It did. So this is the Switch handled the first one, and the first one was similar.
Yeah.
So, so you played Oxenfree II, I guess? Spoilers. How was it?
I did. Yeah, that one. Games like that are always hard to demo because, it's a super narrative focused game. Most of what you're doing over the course of the game is building relationships with characters and unraveling a mystery. And so you can't really gauge the quality of that story just off the bat. I got to play 30 minutes of the intro basically. So in that regard, it's a little bit tricky to talk about, but I mean, it's more Oxenfree. It's I don't think it's really shaking it up in too many ways. There are some new mechanics. Did you play the first one?
No, I didn't, but I'm aware of it, and it does seem like that's a game you need to sit down in a quiet room and just have a few hours with, not in a bustling demo kiosk.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, the first game was really cool. I think a lot of people don't. It's easy to forget, but at the time, the big thing that game was kind of lauded for was it really nailed making real-time dialogue between characters flow well, in a believable way. And the fact that when someone was talking at you in Oxenfree, you could just interrupt them and talk over them, and they would kind of react to that, and all the things you say, it wasn't, you look at the Telltale games where everything you do, it kind of tells you oh, Johnny Joe will remember this, and the game did a little bit of that, but most of the things that you would say, you don't, you could kind of just tell from how people were reacting, oh, maybe that was a little harsh or whatever. So that was kind of, I think, the big innovation for that game, was what it did for a dialogue. And the story was really good too. And it left a lot of unanswered questions at the end of it regarding the kind of supernatural phenomena that you stumble across in that game. And Oxenfree II has a totally new protagonist, whereas in the first game it was kind of like started off as like a teen drama, and you're playing as this group of angsty teens. This time around it's totally different. You're playing as this 30-year-old woman who is like, she works for this environmental research group, and they're picking up all these weird electromagnetic frequencies over in the Pacific Northwest, and so the story just kind of goes from there. But yeah, it's supposed to be a much bigger game. The map is definitely a lot bigger. There's a lot more to explore. There's also an element of like time travel. So there are these things called time tears, and it's like part of the puzzle mechanics of the game. Like you'll have to kind of jump between this other era and the modern day through these time tears to solve puzzles to kind of move the story forward. So they're doing some interesting things for sure. And I definitely want to play it because the first one has, like, some of the unanswered questions from that game have still kind of been lingering in my brain all these years.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, Tom, if you haven't played it, if you like narrative-focused stuff, I think you should check it out.
You know, I usually don't play games like that. It's very difficult for me unless they're like expressly like crazy, like Danganronpa or something. Like I'll play that, like Insanity, like. But maybe I just haven't tried them enough. That's more the reason.
It's a good foothold into the genre. It's a really good story, and it's fairly interactive too. Like you're not just like walking and talking. Like there are some like puzzle elements and some gameplay. So I think you should give it a shot.
Yeah. I'm looking at your list of other games. I have a question about Fae Farm. I've been seeing this game a lot.
Oh, yes, please. Mm-hmm.
And this game has always seemed very ambitious to me. It's trying to do a lot of things, and it's in this genre that Animal Crossing just made. It's exploding. We're seeing now the Animal Crossing like wave as all these farming games are coming out now. Like they're finally finishing, and Fae Farm is a full $60 game. So and it looks like it deserves it from what it's promising, right? On these trailers, like every feature you could want. There's farming, there's like Animal Crossing house building, there's fashion, there's cooking, there's dungeons, there's like, it seems incredibly ambitious to me. And I don't know why, I'm just nervous about them pulling it off. I don't know who's developing it. It's Phoenix Labs, right? Like,
yeah. You know what the last game they made was?
It was PlayStation, right? I don't remember the title.
The last game they made was Dauntless. Do you remember Dauntless?
Dauntless.
That was like a multiplayer centric, like competitive game that I don't even think you can buy anymore.
Free to play action role playing video game developed in Phoenix Lab. Interesting. So this is their second.
It's a huge shift.
Okay, this is their second game. Then.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, what did you think? Like, my impression to start off is the ambition seems a lot. That's made me nervous. Does it make you excited? Do you think they pulled it off? I know you didn't play the whole game or anything.
I got to play about 45 minutes of it, so I got to see quite a bit of it. It is a lot. Like even just at a glance. I mean, obviously, I was being thrown into the demo probably like midway through the game, and yeah, honestly, I kind of agree with you, Tom. Like I am still a little bit unsure of how everything's going to play out in total. So yeah, I mean, you have all the basics of the genre, right? You can have your little house, you can decorate it. There's recipes to craft and build things. You can farm vegetables and animals, and you can cook meals to, like, then when you go into combat, you can take those meals with you. And so, like, everything does seem like fairly connected. Like, I think, again, it's too early to say for sure, but like from what I saw, it does seem like even though there's a lot of components, it does seem like everything is going to tie into each other pretty well. I personally, like, this is not the type of game that I would gravitate towards. Like I love like Animal Crossing style games, but the whole like, you know, I don't necessarily like care much for the whole like fairy pixie dust aesthetic. You know, but like there's a lot of like different ways to play it. Like when I was chatting with the developers, he was like, you know, if you're not interested in the combat, you know, we have items in the game that you can kind of like turn yourself invisible and you can avoid the combat.
Interesting.
You know, they do have like a whole like character like relationship system where you can like become friends and then go on dates with certain characters, but it's just the thing that's hard to gauge is like how deep all this stuff goes
and how polished each one is. And if for $60, it all should be super polished, in my opinion, right? Like, how fun is the dungeon? Is the dungeon crawling so like? If you could just skip it, is it that fun? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a way to just skip it. It reminds me a little bit of Ever Oasis. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah, I never like, played it, but
hidden gem. One of those games where it's like there's this town building element and the dungeon crawling element, and neither was super deep, but they were both like had a fun gameplay loop. But they didn't promise too much. Fate Farm's like, we've made two entirely separate games, the dungeon crawling and this whole other thing. Like, and you know, so it reminds me a bit of that game in kind of loop, but like so much more to do. Like Ever Oasis was you go to the dungeon, get materials, come back and build the town, go to the dungeon. It was kind of a simple like exchange. This feels like you can get lost in any one kind of track, and I don't know. Maybe that'll be amazing. Maybe it'll be like the perfect game, that the dream game of this genre that somebody wants.
I'm sure it's the dream game for someone. I just don't know if it's the dream game for me. And there were definitely like things that I think could be optimized better. Like, look, one thing you gotta get right in a game like this is the fishing. Okay, I should be able to throw my fishing rod in the water and immediately know what to do. And it was a little too confusing to do the fishing in this game.
Oh man, that's a staple. That fishing is a staple.
Like a little thing. And
not for this genre.
Me, but
for this genre.
Yeah.
In this genre,
right.
Fishing is, you know, is the grind rail. It's you know, it's the mechanic you see coming up in all these kind of games. You know, like it's one of those important kind of mechanics that you'll see, you know, in so many farming games, classic and new. So I'm glad it's in there. Even games that shouldn't have fishing, like Fire Emblem, have fishing. So. Like, yeah, you're right. I agree.
They've got the right idea.
That's such a funny way to look at it, though, Nick. Like, like a review score based on the fishing mechanics polish. Like,
well, no, okay, but
I'm not. But like, you know how you can tell this game's good. They've got a good fishing mechanic in the fishing mini game, because it's like true though. Like, in a weird way, you look back their history. You know, Sonic has like a lot of games have fishing mini games, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
But like, I'm using that like as an example to kind of like say that like there are elements of the game that feel like they should just be a little more intuitive or a little like less difficult to parse, and they're just kind of not. Like,
well, and
I feel like the world is kind of hard to get around. You know, like it's a little confusing the way things are laid out. You know, there's a lot of different like systems to engage with, but at least at a glance, I was having a hard time kind of telling like, okay, like what does, like I have all these tools in my tool wheel, which one does what? You know, can I pick this up? There's no button prompt. Like, what do I do to interact with this? So, you know, like things like that.
Oh man, yeah.
But the game is still coming out, you know, a little bit down the road. So I think there's time for them to clean it up a little bit and work on some of that.
Well, and
they did say they're planning on supporting it in the long run.
Of course, right. This is clearly important to them. Yeah.
Yes.
It reminds me a bit of, and you probably could speak to this more. Like when Hogwarts Legacy came out, it had all these side mechanics, that like so many things you could do in the game that are a whole different systemic kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it's just like, in a way, diluted itself in a bit. You know what I mean? Like from what it could have been, which could have been this kind of school simulator thing, right? More focused experience. No, it has to do all this stuff. It has to do so much that, and none of it, like it's jack of all trades, right? Master of none. It couldn't actually zero in on a specific thing and master it and make that like such a great experience.
Yeah.
And I
By the
felt
time
like,
I solved my 20th Merlin trial in Hogwarts Legacy, I was like, okay, that's enough of that.
right. It's like, and I'm gonna collect animals and build a farm and then build like it's like what is all this and then like so that's kind of how I felt similarly about Fae Farm, but Fae Farm feels like it should be a smaller game, but it's priced similarly too, which is surprising. Anyway.
I think that's going to be the real like thing is like if you're charging $60 for it, it's going to be harder to compete, you know.
Right.
And like if I'm new to this genre or I'm looking for something to go play, you know, am I going to go spend $60 on Fae Farm or am I going to go play, you know, Stardew Valley or something, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or
like an
new
all-time
Harvest Moon
classic.
game. Yeah.
Well, you don't want to play the Harvest Moon games. Again, the Story of Season games are from the original developers of Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon games are just the name rights are only owned by. What else did you play, Nick? What else?
Okay. Okay. So two more I'll talk about in detail, and then the rest will just kind of gloss over because I don't want to keep everyone here forever. So this next one I'm really excited about. This one is called Little Kitty Big City, which is just a great name.
A hilarious name. Already already love it. You don't even have to tell me anything else. Little Kitty Big City.
Sold. Yeah.
Is there a fishing mini game though? Is there a fishing mini game in it?
No, not that I'm aware. But yeah, no, this is like the opposite. Like this is a game that has like a very focused vision. And that vision is you are a cat and you have fallen out of your owner's studio apartment balcony and you need to find a way to get back. And you're in this city and
so
there's all these Yeah. Well, okay, so but it feels different than that. So Stray was a very, I think, like there were definitely areas where it was more open, but overall like the goal was like, you know, you're going along this linear path, whereas this feels a little bit more like a sandbox game. So you are kind of like thrown into the city and there might be little obstacles that are preventing you from getting further, and so you kind of have to figure out how to traverse. Like there's a barking dog. There's like a dog that's like blocking an alley, and in the demo you aren't able to get past him. But in the full game, there's being like, all right, well, how are you gonna get past this dog? Are you gonna kind of like find an alternate path and like sneak behind him and scare him, or are you gonna like, you know, try and climb up this building and go around him and things like that? And you just do cat things. My favorite part of this game is you can control your cat's left and right paws to like swipe at things. So you can like
wait. You control individually the left or right paws?
It's just like attached to like the trigger. Like you left trigger, you like swipe with your left paw and you can like bat at something.
Oh, so this isn't like a Death Stranding where you control the left or right legs to walk.
No, not like that.
You can use the triggers.
Yeah. But yeah, like you just like, so you'll run into these like talking animals around the world, and they'll all like want different things. Like there's this like cat that is, I can't remember if it's cat or bird. I don't remember. I played a lot of games this weekend. All right. There's this one animal that's like, all right, you need to go collect the shinies, which are like to, and then I'll help you. And those could be anything from like little pieces of garbage that like glimmer, but it was like, I think it was like a bird or something. Like this bird loves shiny things. But you can also like, there are these humans that are walking around, and you could like swipe at their legs, make them drop their phone, pick up the phone with your mouth, try and outrun them, and then, or like drop the phone in a puddle if you want to be a jerk about it.
Yeah, the humor, the visuals have a lot of comedy in them. The animation is like funny, you know, like it's trying to be lighthearted in that way. It has like a maybe like Untitled Goose Game like tone. I mean, I'm enamored. I've fallen in love with this cat. And so I'm glad to hear like the game is also kind of fun too. Like the game's actually fun to play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I see you can collect like little hats for the cat to wear.
You can. The developer who I talked with, he said that was his favorite part of the game.
Who wouldn't think that? I respect that a lot. Great. That looks like a lot of fun. I see it's not releasing until next year sometime, but I do see. Wait, I'm looking at the trailer. The cat does have fish in its mouth. Fishing.
Yeah, you can pick up things. I don't know if.
Are you telling me you didn't ask him
fishing?
His fishing minigame?
No, that question did not come out. Here's something interesting though. The lead developer on this game worked at Valve for a long time. He worked on games like Portal and Half-Life and Counter-Strike, and then he split off and made his own company, and this is their first game.
Well, it's his first game. I really hope, because again, it's a first game, like it's make or break for the studio, right? It's important that first game.
First game for the studio. I mean, obviously he's very accomplished.
No, of course,
industry,
I know, but
like,
I hope this works out so they can make more games like this and kind of sustain it. And it looks great.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, and then probably like in terms of the indies I played, this one is probably also up there for me. So I am not a big like Souls-like kind of guy. It's just not really a genre that I gravitate towards. I generally don't find them a lot of fun to play, and that's probably just because I'm bad at them. I'll admit it. All right, but this game, Another Crab's Treasure, this might be the one, Tom. This might be the Souls-like to convince me to give this genre another shot.
I remember
really
this game.
Fun.
Was this? I feel like this is an indie. Was announced at an indie like a year ago.
It was in some type of Nintendo Direct at some point. Yeah, it's a Souls-like where you play as a crab.
This is very much like the last game we just talked about, like this humorous animal take on a genre, right? Like that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really excited to hear about this game because I remember the trailer. I'm looking at it right now and thinking, oh, that looks awesome. So you played it. How was it? Did it live up?
Yeah, I actually didn't really go in with super high expectations for this one just because I didn't really expect myself to enjoy it that much, but I had a great time with it. It's good. They nailed a lot of the fundamentals. Like moving around feels really good. The art is beautiful. There's some really funny writing in it too, and yeah, the actual combat elements of it. So the big thing is you can pick up different shells, so like old cans or bottle caps or whatever, and these shells can give you different attributes, different strength, and they're designed to kind of break and be experimented with, kind of like in how Zelda your weapons break. They're designed to kind of be these like disposable resources, and so that was actually a really fun element of it was that part. There's also like some platforming, so you are kind of like hopping around and riding on platforms to try and get around, and it just all feels really good. I'm not used to like having my like combat like on the bumpers, but they said like if you want you can remap the controls.
Yeah, but that's Souls stuff. That's Souls-like. They do the bumpers too.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty common for the genre, but they were saying how if that's not your jam, there's a lot of accessibility options to make the game easier or give yourself extra health. So if you want to just go through and like make the combat a little bit simpler and just enjoy the whole vibe of the thing, you can do that too. So I think it's going to be a winner. I really do.
I remember loving this game. I wasn't, at Nintendo Everything when this announced, but I remember being super excited about this back then. And so to hear it's living up and playing and fun, this is probably one of my probably out of the list we've talked about today, day one purchases, I think.
Yeah, that's I think if you're looking for a Souls-like, or if you want a difficult experience, it looks like you can definitely get that from this. If you just want something different, or if you're like me and you're like just curious about the genre and trying to check it out for the first time, I think there will be a lot to enjoy with that as well.
Yeah, I just love the setting, the visuals, the humor. It's right up my alley. This is great.
Yeah. One other note about this game that I thought was funny, just to give you a sense of the humor, the one of the like currencies you use to like get new things and stuff is the currency is called microplastics. So you collect microplastics while you're like out of the ocean. It's like there's some good writing in this game.
That's so funny. I love that.
The general premise is like you're like there's like some like crab queen or whatever that is like imposing unfair taxes on the undersea population, and you're like rebelling, and so she sends her legion of crabs after you.
It's funny that you say that, because like a lot of the weapons or the shells are like pollution. Like there's pollution in the game. Like they're all like not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So that's a great like thematic currency. You're selling me even more. You're
tying everything together. Yeah. So I'd say those are probably the games I played at Summer Games Fest that I'm most excited about. I'll touch on some other ones quickly that I played, and I guess we can talk more about it if you have any questions or anything. But some of the other games I played, the big one was Mortal Kombat 1. However, it was not the Switch version. It was definitely the PS5 version, and it looked incredible. But
I bet.
You know, like it's just I can't. It's hard to talk about that game because playing it on the Switch will just be a completely different experience, you know. But yeah, it was fun to play, and I hope they're able to translate a lot of that.
Well, I know that 11 came out on Switch, right? And that was not received the best as like a version.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it was horrible or unplayable. It definitely worked, but like people were not saying, you know what, you lose nothing going to the Switch. It was definitely like, it's probably better somewhere else. Like.
Yeah, and I think where I left it when I was talking about this with Dennis last week was like, look, like if I'm gonna spend $70 on a video game, I want it to feel like a $70 game, and I just don't think I'm a little worried about that component for this game.
Right.
But great game. Really impressive on PS5. like you go for like the transition between picking your characters and going into the battle is seamless. Like you pick your characters. They talk shit at each other, and then you are in the fight. Like
I think
wild.
Isn't Street Fighter 6 something like that? The next gen wave of fighting games are here. You know, like there's a different. They're like upping the present. Which fighting games are all about presentation, anyway. And I feel like we've reached a new level of that now too, with the new consoles.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I also got to play the Switch port of Escape Academy. That game is, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like a virtual escape room that you can play in local co-op if you want, or single player. I actually played that game with my wife on Xbox, and we had a great time when we were arguing about how to solve the escape room. But yeah, they've been working on the Switch port for a long time, and I played on the Switch Lite, and I thought it looked great. It ran super solidly, and the version they're putting on Switch also comes with all the DLC. So yeah, I think that'll be a great little package if you're into that type of genre, Tom.
I've never done one before in real life, nor virtual. So, but it does sound like a good couples game, so I think I should maybe look into it. Because of that experience of you and your wife doing it sounds fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a good time if you are patient with each other. Patience is required to solve these escape rooms. Yeah. I also got to play. Wait, what? Sorry, Tom.
I was just saying, like, you give a bad review because it led to your breakup, your divorce.
Yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, although when I was talking to the developers, they were saying like, yeah, we kind of hope like people like argue a little bit while they're playing.
Just a little.
I'm like, okay, yeah,
Some
just a little bit.
Some good tension. You gotta have difficulty.
Yeah. Okay, I do have to say this. It is incredibly hard to play a timed escape the room game while the developers of the game are sitting there watching you. They know how to solve all the puzzles. They're sitting there watching me play it, and I'm like putzing around this room, looking at everything, trying to put the pieces together. And they're just sitting there. They're like, "Do you want a hint?" And I'm like, "No."
No, but that's the proper experience. That's what real escape rooms are, right? The staff is out there watching you.
It's true, but like look, I'm sitting with the developers. I gotta show my chops a little bit,
Yeah. Do you want a hint? That must have been a brutal.
Oh my god! It's like, look, they're like, you're so close to figuring it out, and I'm like, I'm glad you think so. Oh man, yeah. Okay, and last two games I'm going to talk about that I played at the showcase. These are both games that are being published by Annapurna, so we might hear more about them soon because I know there's an Annapurna showcase coming up. One of them is called Cocoon, and this one I probably know the least about. It is a very kind of mysterious puzzle game. What I was able to get out of the developers is the concept is you have these orbs that you can kind of carry around with you, and each of these orbs contains an entire world in it. And so when you put these orbs in places in the other world that you're already in, then you can jump into those other worlds and solve more puzzles and then jump back out, and it's very trippy. And they're trying to be very mysterious about the story and what you're actually doing. But it was beautiful game, like stunning art direction, incredible sound design, like probably one of the most immersive experiences I had. Like I didn't want to put it down. I'll say that.
I'm reading here that this is from Jep Carlson, the lead gameplay designer of Limbo and Inside.
Yeah,
directing this game. So then there's some serious cred there too. So I know that probably why the game is a bit more like thoughtful, and impressive is because a legend. You can call him a legend, right? Working on it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame that that team had kind of split up and they're all kind of working on.
I heard it was a dramatic
now,
split up. I don't know all the drama, but at least they're more stuff's coming out from them. That's good.
Yeah, you won't hear me complaining. And then the last game I played I'm still having a hard time grasping exactly. It's called Thirsty Suitors, and again another great name. It's a really weird game, but it's really funny. You've seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right, Tom?
I've actually read it. I haven't. I read the comic. I have not seen the movie though.
Okay, well, it shares some similar ideas in that you're going back and you're battling your exes and you're using things like taunting them, like trying to find ways to insult them to let their guard down so you can drop an even harsher attack. You can call in your mom as a summon, and she will smack them with a giant flip flop. It's great. But there's also skateboarding apparently, which I was not expecting, and cooking. So, yeah.
Wow, it's like from the clips I've seen, there's like an RPG element to it, or
yes, it is an RPG.
Battle?
It is just a very difficult to define RPG.
I love the title. I like all these funny games coming out. We gotta get more like comedy games. This is good to see.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I do see a demo is available for the Thirsty Suitors on Steam right now. So
there you go.
If you want to be like Nick and play the game, yeah, there you go. Figure out. So you might have a better idea of what this game's like than us.
That's always the challenge. Is how do you distill this entire creative work into like a 3-paragraph blurb on our podcast. But
after playing only a bit of it too, yeah.
Right. But so that was everything I played at Summer Games Fest.
Well, it sounds like you had a busy, eventful event. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And it's really cool to get to talk with the people who are making the games, talk to other media, and hear what other people are thinking about them. It's just a really good vibe, And I'm feel very blessed to have gotten to go. And if you're listening and you're one of the people I met at the event, it was great meeting you, and thank you. So yeah. But on top of all that, we had a crap ton of other announcements this week. I was talking about all those random showcases that we had, and again, we cannot talk about everything, but here's what we'll do for you, our faithful listeners. We're about to give you a curated list of some games that maybe you'll be interested in. Just 3 of them. Three really good announcements from this week. I think that sounds good, Tom. What do you think?
3 is good. That's the magic number. We were talking about comedy. Comedy works in 3s.
There you go. Okay, so this first one was a pretty big surprise. This is a new narrative-driven RPG called Resistor, and it's doing a lot of different things. It's like a racing kind of themed RPG, which is really unique. Like your driving is like one of your main means of traversing around this world, it seems like. The art style is gorgeous. I really don't think I've seen anything that looks quite like this. And yeah, there's like vehicular combat, and you're trying to like build up your reputation and recruit teammates to your racing crew, and I'm like, that sounds sick.
It looks very like pod racing a little bit, but in cool cars.
A little bit.
And I am down for that. And post-apocalyptic desert pod racing violence, F-Zero-esque maybe even. Yeah, I'm a fan. It does have like I would say visually it looks like some of the other games we talked about today, that kind of cel shaded, not photorealistic, but not like super, like not like all the way like 2D cartoony, but
yeah,
I don't know, definitely good. Definitely seems like it would be fun. The vehicle combat, you don't see a lot of those these days, unfortunately.
You really don't. Speaking of vehicle combat, sidetrack, but did you see during Summer Games Fest the teaser for the Twisted Metal TV show? Oh boy.
No, I was too busy ordering from DoorDash to get a chance to win the Final Fantasy 16 PS5. When he said it, Jeff Keighley says it, I spend money. It's crazy. No, I didn't. Wow. I didn't watch the movie trailers. When the movie Witcher 3 came on, I'm done. When Sony talked about Gran Turismo movie, I'm out.
That was the right call. That was the right call.
I went on a big rant with segment. Last episode I was on, I think with Nicholas and Sam. I went on a big rant how I don't want a Zelda movie, and now there's rumors about a Zelda movie, so you can tell my opinion on that is probably a bit negative. Too cynical for the cast.
Yeah, that's okay. We welcome all opinions here. But yeah, so that game is called Resistor, and I just, whenever I see something that is like, I'm like, wow, I don't think I've seen something like that before. Like, I'm here for it. We don't have a release window for it yet. It is coming to other platforms as well. But yeah, I think it looks amazing. All right, now this next one, Tom, this one's for you. Because you were talking on a recent episode about your love for the Wario Land series.
I did.
Okay, well, may I introduce you to not a new Wario Land game, but a game that might evoke some of those feelings. It is called Anton Blast, and I think it's evoking a lot of similar notes. Like if you go watch a trailer for this game, and you look at the animation, you look at the way it's moving through the world. It's a 2D platformer, but it's got a really kind of like it's got a retro vibe to it.
It's Wario Land.
Yeah, it's Wario Land. It's Wario Land without Wario.
I of course that's great, and the gameplay loop of Wario Land's wonderful. Now, will it have the art film artiness of Wario Land? Since the parts of Wario Land are so like abstract and like again like art weird, like avant-garde. I'm curious if that will have that dimension of this, or this will just have the raucous fart part of it, which is fine. A good game regardless, but there is like an avant-garde aspect of later Wario, especially the Game Boy Advance ones, later Wario Land that I don't see here yet, at least. You know what I mean? Not to think that's we're living up to, you know, one of the greatest game designers ever, the Super Metroid team making these 2D platformers on Game Boy Advance, right?
It's hard to tell if it's gonna hit all the notes of Wario Land, but I think lacking Wario Land, I think this is probably about as close as you're gonna get.
It's so unfortunate too, because like Wario Land, I don't know if it's successful sales wise, but like people like Wario, you know, like I thought at least they should keep making it.
I'd buy another one.
Anton Blast, good enough. Obviously the game, the pixel art and animation of Anton Blast look incredible and really well done. So it definitely looks promising. It's not some kind of lazy, cheap, whatever. No, this is a real love letter to those Wario Land games, especially 4.
Yeah. I think this one's got a lot of potential as well. And yeah, I don't think we have a release date for this one either yet, but this one was actually announced for PC a while ago, so I'd imagine that it's probably not going to be too long. Famous last words, but we'll see. Okay, and this last one on our little curated list, there have been a lot of folks out there who have been begging Nintendo to make a Zelda maker. And it may not ever happen, but lacking that, we now have Quest Master, which is described as a dungeon designing sandbox adventure that is coming to Switch. And it is basically Zelda Maker without the Zelda branding. You can make little mini dungeons, and it's, you know, just drag and drop, putting down elements, making puzzles. It goes, you know, beyond just dungeons. It's saying that you can make an overworld, different biomes. You can choose where enemies spawn in. You can edit the dialogue for NPCs. I mean, it's a fairly ambitious package.
Are you saying that the Chamber Dungeon Maker in Link's Awakening's remake wasn't good enough? Doesn't count? Are that what you're saying to me? Are you saying that was kind of an underbaked feature that no one used?
Look, man, you said it, not me. Okay.
No, I'm
those
asking
are your
you.
Words.
I heard it from you. That's what you just said, right? Yeah, it definitely looks a lot more thorough and fleshed out compared to that feature, and good, because Zelda dungeons, especially the 2D ones, are beautiful tile novels. You know, they're amazing, and they should be able to be made in this style. And it's a mistake even that Nintendo hasn't capitalized on it more thoroughly than that weird side mode where you collected rooms in Link's Awakening on Switch. So
yeah, and like presumably something like this, you actually have a way to maybe share the things that you make. So you know that already puts it above.
That too. What were they? And like, you know, I'm not a game developer, and nor was a lot of people asking for a Zelda Maker game developers.
Right.
But like, this proves us what we thought, which is it's not impossible to implement a engine
definitely
like this. We weren't crazy. Like, this seems very plausible to be doable.
It's doable. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it looks great. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously I'd prefer to. I know. You know what? We'll never know we'll ever get another 2D Zelda again. At this point, that part of the franchise is definitely in question and in limbo, which is such a shame because that is my favorite.
Don't talk that way to me.
Where is it coming from?
Come on.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh, the remake. Hope. Maybe a remake, but like a new, like with new stuff, right? Like, but where's it?
I can't believe it. I can't go down that dark path. We have to have more 2D. We have to someday.
Who's making
It's
Grezzo?
gotta happen again. Well, you know. I don't have all the answers, Tom. But what I do have is I have a little bit of hope, and don't take that away from me, okay?
Okay. I'm just looking at the facts of how much Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom sell.
I know. No. Well, look, even though Nintendo was not at Summer Games Fest and they didn't have a lot of announcements this past week, they did put out a trailer for Pikmin 4. So like that's something.
Just for no reason, out of nowhere, and only about like one feature, which is you get to create a character barely at the beginning. Like very minor like character customization option, and that's it. That's all you get to learn. There's no other announcements contextually around it. Just a Twitter drop of that.
Game is still coming out in July. Release date hasn't changed. But yeah, it wasn't much. I saw. I try to follow a lot of the other content creators on YouTube, and Arlo put out a video where he was so excited to see a new Pikmin thing, and it just ended up being this 1 minute video. I think he was a little disappointed with that, but
yeah, because it's like okay, character creator and I don't play Pikmin for like the role playing, like it's like okay, nice, thank you, like, but like not where I'm there for. I mean, Pikmin
not
4,
the selling point of this game.
Obviously, still looks great, and it from the original trailer, this didn't add much to that opinion, but like very definitely the only game to be excited about from first party Nintendo post Tears of the Kingdom, right? I mean, I don't think they've even confirmed anything to be coming like the date from Nintendo past Pikmin 4, so maybe the last ever Nintendo game.
This could be it, folks. This could be the end of Nintendo. I don't think it's that drastic. But yeah, we don't know what's coming up next, so hopefully there will be a direct. But look, Tom, we don't need new games because we just got
I agree. The backlog
new games for
crazy.
Switch Online. Yeah. Switch Online is coming in clutch.
Oh, Switch Online. There's great. We can just play old games, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean,
look,
I don't know.
Wants us to do that now.
Look, Nick, and this is just totally random. I'm going to look at the next 4 games in my backlog. You tell me if anything lines up. I've been really hankering to play some Blaster Master on Game Boy Color. Really wanting to get back to Kirby Tilt and Trouble. Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo. I've been like, it's been a while since I played that game. And then, there's this game that if I had to translate the title, it's a Japanese only game. It's called Mystery Tower in My Head. Those are the 4 I'd want to play.
Okay.
I hope that's anyway, continue with the story. What do you got?
Tom, man, today's your lucky day, dude. Because those are exactly the 4 games that we're getting in the month of June. What a hype list. Actually, you know what? This actually is a pretty good list of games. Okay, Kirby Tilt and Tumble. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
They actually retained the gyro controls.
I mean, they have to, right? I'm surprised they would bring this game. Right, yeah.
Well, okay, you say they have to, but I mean, let's be honest. When I first pulled this up, I was like, oh, did they just bring over Kirby Tilt and Tumble? Because it would not be the strangest thing Nintendo's ever done.
Look, after they put Wiimote controls, after they put Wiimote controls to Duck Hunt on Wii U, I expected gyro in this. I knew the second I saw it, gyro. But Harvest Moon, like it's been a long time since that game's been available. Mystery Tower has never been come to English speaking regions. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know anything
that.
about that game, but
I know I don't know much either. But like preservation wise, very happy because that's a Famicom game. I don't know much about it, but like again, a game that preservation wise, unlike a Fire Emblem game that maybe is one of your most important franchises in Nintendo, maybe you keep it available. Being on Nintendo Switch Online, at least it confirms it's going to be here for more than 3 months available to purchase. So,
yes,
gosh,
that's true. Yeah, so overall, I mean, it's nice to see, and gosh, I don't even think we talked about, but just a couple weeks ago we got a 3 Mario Advance games added,
yeah, that is exciting too. Can I mention that Natsume, along with the release of Harvest Moon, I believe put on their website the original like I don't know if it's Nintendo Power, whatever, guide or manual of the game on their website. You can look at for free, like all the they scanned in or whatever.
That's cool.
Let me see if I can get the link or whatever for that. We'll do that post show. But yeah, so I saw that.
That's the
earlier.
one thing with Switch Online. There's no manuals. It's a real
no, I know, and that's what. So it's nice because they're actually they just put it on their website for the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah. So yeah, even if Nintendo doesn't have a lot of new games lined up, at least you can go play Kirby Tilt and Tumble in 2023.
Who would have thought? My next backlog. I mean, you just nailed it.
That's what I'm here for, Tom. Yeah. So it's been a crazy time. I guess I think we've got time. Do you want to mention some of the games that came out recently, Tom?
What do you mean? Oh, recent releases. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean I don't even know about I don't know nothing about these games, but you provided the list.
Okay.
And so
I did provide the list.
I will read them.
Okay. I will be our guide.
Yeah, be our guide. But first up, I just want us to talk about Smooshy Come Home. Tell me about Smooshy Come Home, Nick. I want you to tell me all about it because I don't know anything about it, and it looks like Smooshy is a necessary title.
Really excited.
I'm sure it's fun. Let's talk about it.
Look, okay, Tom, you're joking about this game, but people are very excited for this one. Okay, the cozy community, they're losing their minds right now.
Good.
People who like cozy games. All right, you're a little mushroom, and you're walking around this forest, and you are talking with the various residents of this little mushroom forest. You apparently have a mycology journal, which I guess mycology is a fancy word for mushroom, and you learn about real life mushrooms. And there's platforming.
Yeah.
And you're making forest friends. I mean, what more could you want from a cozy exploration game?
I agree. It's cute. It's got like that Kitty City energy,
It does have that Kitty City energy.
Yeah, so I'm all for it. No complaints. It's quite a name for a game.
It is. I don't know what a Smooshy is, but he's coming home, baby.
Or is it Smushy? Because mushroom, Smushy.
Oh, that makes. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Developers, if you're listening.
Is it Tears of the Kingdom or Tears of the Kingdom?
Okay, well, that idea has been floated on this podcast before, but that's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
Another I don't even know how to transition out of that one, so I'm just not even going to try. The next game on our list, we got a random Hatsune Miku game. Are you familiar with Hatsune
what
Miku?
I do know is every Hatsune Miku game is a random Hatsune Miku game, so...
okay. Well, I think that's a little harsh, but yeah.
No, actually, I have a good friend. He was a guest on the channel very briefly. Miles.
Okay.
I had him on to do a Zelda analysis of Asian Numa. He is the only person I know, but also I'm certain the biggest Hatsune Miku fan in the world. No, he's not, but he knows everything about Hatsune Miku, and so that's all I know. I know it by proxy.
Okay.
This is not a Hatsune Miku game. This is not a music developing game. This is a what is it? Tell me.
I don't
know. Mini games
I was
like a
about to ask
Mario
you
Party.
the same question.
It's like a
It
Mario
has mini
Party
games
game?
in it, but it looks like an RPG. This game is called Hatsune Miku, The Planet of Wonder and Fragments of Wishes.
Oh, you know what? That clears it up. That clears it up.
Really,
now I know exactly
really
what
nails
it is.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
It's a farm game. No.
Look,
Okay, let me. Hey,
look, they did not even announce this game. They just released it on the eShop. I don't think this is.
Okay. So I've looked it up on a website that I recommend. It's called NintendoEverything.com. An action puzzle game that is some of it is ports of mobile games and some of it's original stuff, but it's like this just mash of like we need to make a capsule to sell this on Switch. That's what I'm seeing from this. So there's two smartphone games are included as mini games in this mini game collection. Yeah.
Interesting.
There you go.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I will say it looks.
I do like this
you know what? The
asterisk
pixel
on
art,
the bottom.
The pixel art's good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. But be warned, this game, they made sure to note on the bottom of the description on the eShop, does not have touchscreen controls. So
even though it was a smartphone game,
smartphone games, there are no touchscreen controls, so don't expect them, or you'll be disappointed.
Okay, I would. You know what, listeners, if you made it this far, I'd steer clear of this one.
Yeah,
they're not going to put touchscreen controls. They didn't really put the necessary polish into it, I think, into their smartphone games.
Probably not. But yeah, so that's exciting. And then this last one, we talked a little bit about with Dennis last week as he reviewed it for the site, but it's actually out now, so I wanted to mention it again. It's called Loop 8 Summer of Gods, and this one had a lot of people really excited. This is the way Dennis described it. So it's an RPG, but it's got, time loop elements. So you are like a student and you're going through the summer vacation and these kind of weird supernatural things start happening, and you do a lot of things actually that you would do like in a Persona game. Like you're building like relationships with the different characters. You are, I guess, going to classes and doing things. You are interacting around town, going to restaurants, doing social activities like that. But Dennis's big complaint with this game was that he didn't think that the time loop mechanic was really a good fit for it, and that it adds a lot of tedium to the game, because if you can't, beat the final boss, you have to start the entire loop over again, and it's apparently no small feat to do that. So this one is, I still feel like it has a lot of good ideas, and I do want to try it because I think it's interesting. I've never really seen an RPG that's doing all these things in this way. But yeah, Dennis was not over the moon about it, which was surprising because he and I were both really excited for it originally.
Well, check out Dennis's review. It's very good, and he gives a lot of examples of better games that do similar things. Like he talks about Aegis Rim and Attack of Friday Monsters and Fatal Frame and all these kind of things that this game's inspired by. And so it's a good recommendation list as well. And it's not like I don't think he hated it. Read the review, right? It's a good review. And Dennis comes with a lot of experience in this weird type of game, visual novel-esque kind of weird JRPG. That kind of gives a good perspective on maybe where it ranks if you're a fan of that type of game, or maybe other options. This sounds interesting, but maybe this specific game isn't exciting to you. Because like Aegis Rim, for example, is a very interesting time travel plot and stuff going on.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that doesn't maybe have the same. By the way, and gorgeous. You probably more gorgeous. Oh yeah. Doesn't have the same drawbacks. I would say there's still that game wants to be a little too many things at once as well, but not the same wasting of your time either. So. Read the review. Definitely recommend that. But yeah, there's so many games like this, I'm fine with it. Marvelous at XC, they're always kind of putting out stuff like this. and experimenting
I think I
with
am
narrative storytelling, you know.
Yeah. I think in general, I'm kind of over the whole time loop thing. I feel like it's a little played out at this point, and
I'm honestly, time travel needs to go. Okay, it needs to do like 30 years off. Time travel needs to retire for now.
It's been done.
Multiverse, I'm done with that. Sweep it away. Let's just get back to good storytelling, you know.
Yeah, if you're not going to make something better than 13 Sentinels, you probably shouldn't be trying to do a time travel story.
And even that game's like, you know, I wouldn't like say that's an all-time classic. It's just a good game, in my opinion.
Did you beat it?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know how I feel about games like this? It's like, it's amazing for a video game story, but like for narrative and story overall, it's like, okay, it's like 7 or 8. You know, like, that's kind of how I feel sometimes.
I think that's an interesting take. I haven't thought about it that way. But, you know. Well, anyways, go read Dennis's review if you're curious about Loop 8. And folks, that is basically our show. We just have one more thing, and that is refresh rates. And I think I've talked enough about the games that I play lately. So Tom, what have you been playing lately since we last caught up?
I haven't played much, so this segment probably won't be as long as normal, which usually I ruin it and make this segment like 40 minutes. So it's probably good. But I've dabbled with, the backlog. I wasn't joking about the backlog. So one of the games I needed to get to was, I bought a long time ago, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, the remake, right, that they put out.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that way long ago on the PS4, and I don't really use my PS4 anymore. And I know they put out a next-gen update, so I got it on my Series X instead. So it's not really Nintendo related, I understand. That's what I've been playing.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I want to bring it up. I'm asking you, Nick, do you have experience with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1? And are you good at it in any way, or played it at all?
You know, I actually wrote the review of the Switch version for this little site called Nintendo Everything. Okay,
cool, because I'm looking for tips. I'm trying to get good at this game. And I did not play this game growing up. I played it a little bit when I got on PS4, and it just, whatever, something happened. Probably something not, whatever. Now I got it back on Xbox. I'm trying to get good. I just feel so bad at the game. Like, it feels like a fighting game. I gotta learn combos. Like, I don't have a lot of experience with this series. But I want to. I love it. And I'm having fun.
Yeah.
This is not me like, help me love it. I love it. But I just want it to sink into me. So I'm asking for tips here, Nick.
Oh man. Okay, well look, I'm not going to proclaim to be like good at these games.
But you beat it, right? You beat it?
I didn't beat it, but I played like a good chunk of the content for both games. Like I sampled a little bit of everything. I went through a good chunk of the progression. You know, I played enough to like get a sense for like how this whole package holds up, you know, like, and like as a remaster and the general flow of everything. And, you know, like overall, like it kind of helped me to look at each level as kind of like a puzzle. Like in this is gonna be a weird comparison, but like you've probably heard like from like talking about the new Hitman games, how you're kind of supposed to like replay it multiple times and kind of learn the ins and outs, so you can experiment and take different approaches. It's kind of like that. They're like each level is like a little puzzle that you kind of have to optimize your path through, and there are a lot of combos, and I think it is overwhelming at first. It's like, it's one of those things where you really do have to sink in, you know, a good amount of time to just experimenting, I found. I did think the training modes were actually pretty helpful too. Like I thought they did a good job fleshing it out, and
Part of me feels like, and I don't know how you feel about this. This is a general remake question, philosophical question. I constantly am asking, like, I want to play, like I'm like on the verge, like I just want to play the original, because there's so many mechanics added to 1 in the remake from 4 and throughout the series that like, I don't know, complicate things for me. Like I want to learn the game from its roots, you know, because I don't have to worry about manual. The game's not designed around manuals. I'm not overwhelmed by reverts, you know, for the original PS1 game. But with this version of that PS1 game, right? Or I guess there's on other consoles too. All that's in there, and so the goals of each level are now like remixed for like the point totals you can get with the game's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 engine, but the level design and stuff of the original game, and it's like either include the original game in your remake, or this should be law. This should be ESRB law. Either include the original game in the remake, or if you're making a remake, you must make the original also available for sale on that same console. Like, because all I want to do is like, I just want to play the first game as it was and see if then I ease into it more, because it just is like, I'm looking at videos and it's like these gods that have been playing this series for 25 years, doing all the reverts and like 900,000 point string combos that you couldn't even do in the first game, like period. And that's the thing, like the first game, I'm looking up, one of the tapes for the scores is like, the tape for the high score of level 1 is like 15,000, and in the remake, it's like 100,000. It's like, well, that I'm never gonna get that one.
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think? Like, do you think my law should be enacted?
So hypothetically, ESRB, fourth branch of the United States government. That's what you're suggesting?
I'm hoping soon. I'm putting in the calls to my Senate as we speak. So, but anyway, yes.
Oh my God, what a concept. You know, I mean, I think in general, like for historical preservation reasons, I think games need to be preserved in some way. And I don't always think we need to have, like, everything needs to be remade or remastered. Sometimes the originals are just good enough. And I think a lot of people would have just been happy if they had just put out the original versions. You know, at the same time, I think there is a lot of desire to like see some of these games that people grew up with rendered in, you know, the best way possible. And you know, this I don't know if I guess you could call it a remake. It is a remake. I mean, they 100%. Remade everything from the ground up.
Well, no, I'm not against remakes.
Retained the feel.
I'm not against remakes. Right? My law is not banning remakes. My law is not banning remakes. It's enforcing that if you're going to remake a game, it's incumbent on you to include the original as well in some way, either in the package for the remake or as a separate purchase somewhere on that same system. Because Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, one of the most important games of all time for sure, is not available to purchase the original as it was today. You know, that's what I'm saying. You can remake all you want, but give me the option. It's like this, the Persona 3 Reload remake, right, coming out. Right. There's a problem because they ported over Persona 3 Fez, right, or Portable to modern consoles, but not like the other ones. And like the remake is not going to have the content from the new games, and it's like a whole like.
Which was the whole thing people wanted.
You know what I mean? So like, yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
And so like, while it's good they have a version of the original on modern consoles, so that kind of fits the bill. It doesn't have all the versions, right? I don't know. There's something about it. Something about it bothers me.
I hear you. In a perfect world, it would be great. But like, man, I will take like. If we can't get everything, like, at least just if you're gonna do a remake, like, yes, it would be nice to have the original version accessible. But if I had to pick one or the other, oh man, I don't know. That's tough.
What do you have
I
to
really
pick?
just think it depends on the game. You know?
Yeah. Would you care about like we get a bunch of games preserved, and they're just all you guarantee every game's always gonna be available for purchase, or no? But you can never get another remake, or just get remakes and never preserve any game.
Oh, no, I think I would prefer to have the originals always.
I agree.
Because, like, the original, like, you know, you got to take the games in the context of their time, right? And, like, you know, the original, even the remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, it's still using physics that feel very early 2000s, late 90s, you know? Like, it's not the most realistic.
It's not Skate,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's not Skate. And it's not supposed to be. But it's... So that's where I feel like, you know, if you're just playing this for the first time and you don't have the context of the originals, you might pick it up and be like, oh, well, this isn't how a skating game is supposed to feel. But if you're picking up the original and it looks and plays like a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 game, then you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, this was how physics were in this type of game at that time. So I think, yeah, I would rather have, if I had to choose, I would say don't give us any remakes or remasters. Just give us the original version so that we can enjoy them for what they were, and then give us new ones in the series that carry along the same spirit.
Right. I agree. Oh, good. Those games are so important culturally. That franchise is one of the best selling whatever ever, right? And you can't play like any of the games like on modern consoles at all. Like, how does that even happen? How does Activision let that happen? They don't want to pay Tony Hawk?
I don't know. The Tony Hawk game I have the most nostalgia for was Tony Hawk's Underground 2.
Right, so the Underground, the Thug games, right. And that was the only ones I played as a kid. But I was so like young that I like wasn't really playing them.
Sure.
Know. That's the poll question is how do I get good at this game? Give me some advice. If you made it this far, give me some tips on because I'm overwhelmed by all the like strings of combos, and every video online is like it's like I'm watching it, and again, it's just like I'm watching a god trifle with these things.
Well, but see, that's the thing. You shouldn't be comparing yourself. You know, you should
I'm not comparing myself. I'm trying to get tips.
You know,
I'm trying to get some tips. When I make a tip video, I make it for the beginner. You know.
Well, sure.
I need more people. Maybe that's the problem.
I haven't touched the game since I reviewed it, so I don't think I'm the best person to give you tips.
Is it good? The Switch version?
I think it's good overall. I mean, it was a little rough around the edges at launch. It's like obviously not the sharpest thing in the world, but like actually playing it, like I thought it felt very like, you know, as good as you can ask for, really.
I will say, sport game menus these days just are vile. They're vile. They look like
you need a manual.
They look like Amazon pages. Like they're horrible. Then I gotta agree my like soul away to even start playing. You literally have to agree to an arbitration clause, so you're legally not allowed to sue the company if your child gets addicted to
after you play the game.
It's like I have to literally like sign my ability to sue. Like I have to sign an arbitration clause just to play a video game. Okay.
Yeah.
Activision, thank you.
Oh. Tom, you just reminded me. There was another game I played at Summer Games Fest that I forgot, and now I feel really bad about it.
Bonus.
It was a sports game.
Bonus. What is it? I want to know.
It was a sports game. I don't play a lot of sports games. It was Super Mega Baseball 4, which is really interesting for a couple reasons. This is EA's like first baseball game in a long time. But EA bought this. They basically bought this indie studio called Metalhead. They've been making these super mega baseball games, and they're really cartoony takes, at least aesthetically, on like baseball games. They started off like not being simulators, and they've like progressively gotten like closer and closer to like a realistic approximation of the sport. But I thought about it because when you were saying how like overwhelming everything is. Like, dude, like if you like are looking for like a like baseball game that is like still grounded in the realities of the game but doesn't take itself super seriously all the time and isn't trying to overwhelm you with things, like this is probably the game for you. And it's got a great sense of humor to it. You have all these like fictional players and teams that like just have like absurd names. But then you also have like some like actual, thanks to like them being part of EA now, they do actually have like some like former like MLB players in it, but it's all like they're like cartoon approximations, like super exaggerated. You know, they immediately like break a baseball bat when they like get a strikeout and like throw up their hands, and like it's so there are good sports games out there. I love sports games. Not gonna overwhelm.
I am not one of these gamers that says sports ball. I hate sports. That's for the bullies. You know. I know. I love sports games. I think it's one of the most important genres in video games, and it's the oldest genre in video games. Tennis for Two, 1958, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is. It's important for us to respect them. Now the developers need to respect them too, EA, and actually make good games. But for a long time, like that was one of the most like important genres, like the backbone of the industry. You know, Pong, sports game.
Right. But the difference was we had more than just like two options for a sport. There were so many baseball games.
Yeah, you could just and licensing didn't matter as much in like 80s and 90s, and then when they started mattering, like none of them were exclusive. Anyone can get a license, right? For the most part. And I think there was just I don't know where the audience has gone. The audience clearly isn't gone. It's just it's such a weird business now. It's like monopolized. It is a problem.
Yeah. It's like just.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I think a lot of people are just fatigued by all the BS that you were explaining earlier. Like people are tired of like I'm sure plenty of people would love to sit down with just like a really good baseball game.
Or
I
remember,
guess that'll be you know.
But we're talking about Tony Hawk. Like, remember the extreme sports genre, like SSX and all these games, like a whole genre that everyone loved. Gen 5-6, right? Like that just gone. And like these are great games. They're incredible games. Even some of them are all-time 10 out of 10 classics, right? But sports games now are like seen as like yearly drivel, right? Like just scams, which they are, a lot of them these days. But for most of video game history, they're important, classic parts of design. I mean, you think about it, like the Ninja Gaiden team made a football game called Tecmo Bowl. Like the action genius of Ninja Gaiden applied to American football. And those games are fantastic, So anyway, whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's just, as all these companies buy each other and are chasing the cash cow, and companies are getting absorbed and shrunk into each other, all these things that I don't think are great for the industry, like that's where we start losing some of these, like really just creative, off-the-wall ideas that we used to get from the sports genre, and the MLB, NFL, whoever, they're going to license their characters and stuff out to the companies that they think that can make them the most money. And, if EA is the only company that can afford to license, FIFA players, which they can't even afford to do that. Like EA doesn't even have the FIFA license anymore. It's crazy. So it's just a changing, it's just a weird thing. There's so much money in it now that I feel like it's just sucked a lot of the soul out of the games.
The microtransactions have been incredibly successful for EA. I mean, there's surprise mechanics according to them in the court of law. So they're not gambling. They're surprise mechanics, but you can't.
As in, like it's a surprise if you're having fun while you're using them. That's the surprising part.
Yeah, I the sports game slander needs to end though, because we don't treat it seriously. No one's actually critiquing these games. No one's actually giving proper criticism because the bar is so low. I mean, how many Maddens did it take to get below an 80? Like overall, right? Like they kept just getting reviews as just like taken for granted and not being criticized properly because they're not taken seriously. And that's what I plan to do. As president, as ESRB, president of the ESRB.
Okay, but like now that we're on this tangent, like I mean, can you really blame people? Like you're getting these annual releases for these sports games that are adding. Sometimes, I mean, shoot, especially on Switch, where literally all EA is doing is updating the roster in their FIFA games for a while. Like they were literally just updating the roster.
No, I'm saying they need to be
releasing the exact same game.
What I'm saying is they need to be punished for it critically. We're not. Could be. What I'm saying is, and I don't know. I'm not going to name any sites, but like for many years, maybe 10 years, a Madden would come out and it would just get an 80 plus because it's like solid, and we weren't taking them seriously enough to actually criticize them for that. You know, to actually treat them like a serious thing we need to criticize because they would just be, it's a new Madden, it's like an 85 out of 100. Like, that's what I'm saying. And now recently, especially the Switch versions, there's been some very harsh reviews because those are not even like games. They're not even finished on the Switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I'm saying. I don't know.
All right. Well, that was a fun tangent, Tom. But I think
somehow I made refresh rate long again. Whoops. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Hey, look, there's no rules in the podcast world, right? We can have as long of a show as we want.
Right.
But yeah, we probably should wrap things up. So thank you everyone for listening. This has been episode 56 of Nintendo Everything Refresh. We hope you enjoyed our conversation about Summer Games Fest and all the great games coming. Definitely make sure that you stay tuned to Nintendo Everything. I mean, just in general, of course, because we're awesome, but especially over the next week or two, because we're going to have a lot of in-depth kind of written previews and probably some video previews as well over on YouTube for some of these games that we talked about. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for all that. Keep your fingers crossed for a Nintendo Direct, and we will be back at you all soon with everything new and exciting in the world of Nintendo. See you guys next time.